The airport was chaos. Snow pelted the glass walls, driven by wind so fierce it seemed to claw through every crack and vent. Terminals were packed with stranded passengers, luggage stacked haphazardly, and the murmur of frustrated voices rising into shouts. Screens flickered with canceled flights, delayed departures, and rerouted connections. Every traveler seemed to be clinging to hope that the storm would relent, but hope felt fragile under the weight of ice and wind. In the middle of it all stood Elena Royce, the youngest female CEO in the country, and one of the most powerful women in corporate America. Her designer coat was buttoned perfectly, her heels clicked sharply against the polished floor, and her phone was glued to her hand. She had meticulously planned every hour of this trip, from board meetings to media interviews, but now, everything was crumbling beneath the snowstorm. Her daughter, Lily, tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, I'm hungry," she said softly, her small voice drowned in the noise of the terminal. Elena forced a reassuring smile, masking the panic rising in her chest. "Soon, baby. We'll figure it out." But even as she spoke, Elena's sharp eyes scanned the crowd. She had survived hostile boardrooms, impossible negotiations, and relentless media scrutiny. Yet here, surrounded by chaos, she felt exposed, vulnerable. And then she saw him. A man crouched near the far gate, his jacket dusted with snow, backpack slung over one shoulder. Nothing about him screamed hero. He looked ordinary, but his eyes were alive with a strange intensity. He wasn't looking at screens or luggage. He was scanning people, hands moving rapidly in a language Elena didn't understand. Sign language, precise and urgent, like a secret conversation invisible to everyone else. At first, Elena thought she was imagining it. Then she noticed Lily's small hand tugging at her sleeve again. "Mom, that man, he's looking at us," the girl whispered. Elena followed her daughter's gaze and saw him nod subtly toward the security checkpoint, then point toward the terminal exit. The motion was quick, almost invisible, but the urgency was unmistakable. Her instincts screamed at her that something was wrong. And then she saw the suspicious man, a figure dressed entirely in black, moving stealthily through the crowd. He avoided the cameras and kept his distance, eyes darting repeatedly toward Elena and Lily. Her stomach tightened. Danger. The man in the jacket, her unlikely hero, signaled again. Faster this time. Elena realized he was trying to warn her without speaking. She didn't understand what he was saying, but she felt the message loud and clear. Pay attention. Move now. Be ready. Her pulse quickened. Her daughter's hand was small in hers, but firm. She followed the man's subtle guidance, stepping carefully through the sea of stranded passengers. Every second counted. The suspicious man reached toward a carry-on left unattended near the crowd. Security officers were distracted, overwhelmed by the storm and the chaos of travelers. Elena's breath caught. The single dad signs became more urgent, almost frantic. He gestured toward the man, shouted silently, and pointed. Elena understood in a flash. He was stopping something terrible before it happened. Security finally noticed. The man in black tried to flee but was intercepted just in time. Elena clutched Lily, her heart racing, as adrenaline surged through her veins. The snowstorm outside raged on, but inside, a dangerous situation had been neutralized. The single dad approached. His face was calm, almost tired, but his eyes held a depth of focus Elena couldn't ignore. "Are you okay?" he asked, fingers moving in quick, fluid signs. Yes," Elena said, still catching her breath. "You saved us." He smiled faintly. "Just doing my job, making sure nobody gets hurt." Lily stared at him with wide eyes. "You're like a superhero," she whispered. He chuckled. "I don't wear a cape." Elena's mind raced. This man, a stranger, had acted with courage, intelligence, and selflessness in a way she'd never witnessed before. In the midst of the snowstorm, surrounded by panic and fear, he had noticed the threat before anyone else did, and neutralized it using nothing but his wits, his signs, and a deep understanding of human behavior. The storm continued to howl outside, but for Elena and Lily, the moment was surreal. Their lives had been in danger for seconds, maybe minutes, and yet they were safe. The lesson was clear. Heroism wasn't about wealth, status, or power. Sometimes, it came from ordinary people who paid attention when no one else did. By the time flights were rescheduled and the terminal slowly emptied, Elena knew she would never forget the man who had saved her and her daughter. He had done more than protect them from danger. He had reminded her that vigilance, courage, and compassion still existed in a world that often seemed indifferent. And in that moment, surrounded by snow, chaos, and cold glass walls, Elena realized that some heroes didn't wear suits. Some heroes didn't seek recognition. Some heroes simply did what was right, without question, without hesitation, without a word. The airport terminal was still alive with tension. Snow gusts rattled against the glass walls, sending shards of cold light across the marble floors. Travelers huddled in their coats, gripping luggage handles and muttering complaints to anyone who would listen. But for Elena Royce and her daughter Lily, the chaos had taken on a new dimension, danger lurking within it, invisible to everyone else. The man, the single dad, had not left their side. From a distance, he moved quietly, his eyes scanning the crowd, hands gesturing rapidly in sign language. To anyone else, it looked like a private conversation with himself. But Elena now understood that every motion was a carefully calculated warning. He was communicating something urgent, something Elena couldn't yet comprehend. "Mom," Lily whispered, clutching Elena's coat. "Why is he looking at us like that?" Elena's stomach tightened. "Because he's trying to help." The little girl tilted her head.
"How?"
Elena hesitated, then smiled faintly. "I think he sees something we don't." As if on cue, the suspicious man in black moved again. He was near the crowd at the gate where unattended luggage had accumulated. His eyes darted toward cameras, then to passengers. He was careful, but not careful enough. The single dad's hands accelerated, signing warnings that Elena could almost feel like arrows in her chest. She followed his gaze. He was pointing, subtly but insistently, toward the man in black. Then he gestured toward an empty kiosk nearby, a safe vantage point. Elena's heart pounded. She realized that in mere seconds, the man in black could have taken a dangerous action, and no one would notice until it was too late. She had survived boardrooms where stakes were measured in millions, but now, the stakes were human lives. Her daughter's life. "Stay close to me," Elena whispered to Lily. The man in black bent toward a bag, fingers twitching over the zipper. Security officers were distracted, attempting to calm irate passengers and manage the snow-delayed flights. Time slowed, every heartbeat stretching into eternity. The single dad acted. His signs were precise, almost urgent, but calm. A map of instructions in a language only he could speak. He pointed, gestured, and moved subtly toward a security guard, catching their attention without alarming the rest of the terminal. Elena watched, amazed. His movements were coordinated and fluid, almost choreographed. It was as if he had rehearsed for this moment his entire life. Suddenly, the man in black froze. The guard intercepted him just as he tried to grab the bag. He struggled, but the single dad had already positioned himself strategically, guiding Elena and Lily to a safer corner of the terminal. The criminal was subdued within seconds, restrained and removed from the crowd before anyone could panic. Lily gasped. "Mom, he's like a superhero." The single dad smiled faintly. "No cape needed," he signed. Elena felt a wave of relief, but it was mixed with awe. She had been in high-pressure negotiations with Fortune 100 executives, but she had never witnessed intuition, courage, and strategy combined in such a raw, effective way. And all of it had been silent, communicated with gestures, quick thinking, and an acute awareness of human behavior. "Who is he?" Lily asked, eyes wide. "I don't know," Elena admitted, still catching her breath. "But I think he just saved us." The single dad approached them, his gaze briefly meeting Elena's. There was no arrogance, no desire for recognition, just quiet confidence. He gestured toward her, and then the criminal being led away. "Everything's okay now," his eyes seemed to say. Elena nodded. "Thank you. I don't even know your name." He shook his head politely. No need. Just stay alert. Snowstorms can hide more than ice. The terminal began to settle as security patrolled more actively, passengers murmuring about the incident, but not fully grasping what had happened. News would not capture the story, not yet. But Elena and Lily would remember it forever. As they moved toward the cafe for a brief respite, Elena reflected on the day. It wasn't just the snowstorm or the canceled flights. It wasn't even the chaos in the terminal. It was that one man, the ordinary, unassuming single dad, who had seen danger and acted decisively, silently, heroically. Mom, Lily said again, tugging gently at Elena's sleeve. Can he come with us? Elena smiled softly, brushing back Lily's hair. He's already part of today, she said. The cafe smelled of coffee and fried food, but neither of them were hungry. Elena sipped her water, eyes scanning the room, realizing how close they had come to disaster. And yet, the single dad's vigilance had turned the situation from potential tragedy to safety in an instant. He returned to the background, scanning for any remaining threats. Elena noticed it now. Every parent, every executive, every passenger had been blind to the signs he'd made. Only he had seen, understood, and acted. It struck her suddenly. This man, who had no obligation to them, had risked everything to protect strangers. And he had done it without a word, without acknowledgement, simply because it was right. The snowstorm outside continued to batter the terminal windows, a reminder that chaos was never far away. But inside, Elena felt a rare sense of clarity and gratitude. Courage existed, even in ordinary people, and she had just witnessed it in its purest form. Lily leaned against her mother. Do you think we'll be safe until our flight? Elena hugged her close. We are, thanks to someone very brave. And at that moment, she realized the single dad hadn't just saved them from a criminal. He had reminded her that true heroism was quiet, unseen, and often anonymous. For the first time that day, Elena allowed herself to relax, just slightly, just enough to breathe. And she knew that when they finally boarded their plane, the story of this snowstorm would live in her memory long after the cold had melted. The snowstorm showed no mercy. Outside, winds howled and snow swirled like a living thing, but inside the airport terminal, another storm was brewing, one of tension, fear, and invisible danger. Elena Royce had spent the last hour glued to her daughter Lily's side, heart still racing from the earlier incident. The single dad had vanished from immediate sight, blending into the crowd, but Elena could feel his presence, watching, observing, guarding. Something about him exuded calm control, as if he knew the storm outside and the threat inside were connected. Mom, is he gone? Lily whispered, clutching her sleeve. I don't think so, Elena replied softly. She didn't need to explain why she felt both reassured and on edge. She had survived boardrooms with CEOs and billion-dollar deals, but nothing had prepared her for a moment like this, where human life depended on vigilance, intuition, and courage all at once. Then she saw him again. The single dad was near a service corridor, crouched slightly, his eyes fixed on a group of passengers loitering near the baggage claim. His hands moved fast, signaling in a language only he could understand. Elena's pulse quickened. Something told her that what had happened moments ago, the criminal being caught, was only part of the story. She had a feeling the real threat hadn't been neutralized yet. The suspicious man in black had been restrained and led away, but Elena noticed the way he had whispered to a companion. A quick glance, a barely perceptible nod toward a luggage cart. She caught it because the single dad had stopped and signaled sharply, drawing her attention with an urgency that was impossible to ignore. He was warning her. Without thinking, Elena moved closer to Lily, crouching so they wouldn't be in the direct line of sight. She watched the single dad approach the luggage area, his movements deliberate but swift. He glanced at her once, a flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes, silent reassurance that he was in control. Suddenly, the man in black's companion lunged for a duffel bag beneath the baggage carousel. Elena's breath caught. Security officers were still distracted by stranded passengers, unaware of the movement below the terminal floor. The single dad's hands moved faster now, almost frantic, directing her subtly to take cover near a kiosk while he intercepted the companion. He didn't shout, he didn't draw attention, he simply acted. One precise movement, one careful step, and he blocked the man, holding him back until security noticed. Elena could hardly breathe. Every instinct screamed that this could have gone horribly wrong. Her daughter's small hand gripped hers tightly, and for the first time, Lily seemed to sense that danger had returned, even though the storm outside was still the same. "Mom, he's scary," Lily whispered, eyes wide. "He's brave," Elena corrected softly. "He's protecting us." The single dad's intervention had revealed a plan. The original criminal wasn't acting alone. Someone else had been trying to retrieve what had been stolen, or perhaps to prevent it from being found. It was a network, not a single opportunist. And the single dad had spotted it before anyone else, communicated silently, and neutralized it with precision. Elena was struck by the realization. The man wasn't just brave, he was intelligent. His awareness of human behavior, his reading of subtle movements, his timing, it was extraordinary. He was no ordinary passerby. He was trained, experienced, and utterly selfless. Minutes later, the terminal settled into a tense calm. Passengers whispered about the chaos. Officers patrolled more vigilantly, and the snowstorm outside continued its relentless assault. But Elena knew this calm was temporary. The network the single dad had intercepted might still be active. The threat might not be fully contained. She watched him as he scanned the crowd again, hands moving in silent communication with himself or perhaps an unseen partner. She realized something. He had saved more than their lives. He had bought them time. Time to think, to act, to escape further danger. Her heart ached with gratitude. She had always measured success in numbers, in deals closed, in influence and control. But now, she understood something deeper. Heroism wasn't in titles, wealth, or power. It was in courage, awareness, and selfless action at precisely the right moment. Elena bent down, speaking softly to Lily. "We need to stay close no matter what. This man, he knows things we don't." Lily nodded solemnly, her wide eyes reflecting fear, awe, and trust all at once. As the snowstorm raged on outside, Elena realized she would never forget this man, not because of what he looked like, or what he said, but because of what he had done. He had turned a terminal of chaos into a zone of safety, simply by seeing what others couldn't and acting before it was too late. She felt a shift within herself, a deep sense of clarity. In all her life, she had never felt such gratitude for a stranger. And in that moment, amidst snow, fear, and uncertainty, she knew the single dad's story was far from over. He had uncovered a criminal, but he had also uncovered something else: the fragility of life, the courage of ordinary people, and the reminder that heroism often comes silently, in the moments no one else sees. Elena held Lily tightly. The storm outside was relentless, but she felt a spark of hope. As long as people like the single dad existed, danger could be faced, and even the most ordinary-seeming moments could reveal extraordinary courage. And one truth became clear. This day at the airport, trapped by snow, would change her forever. The terminal had fallen into an uneasy calm, but Elena Royce knew better. Chaos often disguised itself as quiet. She could still feel the tension in the air, the subtle energy that warned of unseen danger. Her daughter Lily clung to her coat, small fingers gripping tightly, and Elena's instincts screamed that their safety was still fragile. The single dad had moved again, scanning the terminal, hands gesturing rapidly. This wasn't just about the man in black anymore. He had uncovered something bigger. Elena didn't fully understand, but she could feel the urgency, the precision, the danger all around her. "Mom, he's looking at someone again," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. Elena followed her daughter's gaze. Across the terminal, a man in a dark hoodie was nervously checking his phone, glancing repeatedly toward the security checkpoint. His movements were too calculated, too deliberate. He wasn't a stranded traveler. He was part of a plan, and whatever he was planning, it wasn't good. The single dad's hands moved faster now, pointing, signaling, guiding Elena and Lily toward a safer path behind the empty airline kiosks. His eyes never left the target, his mind calculating risk and opportunity with surgical precision. Elena realized something remarkable. He was orchestrating the entire scene silently, turning a crowded terminal into a controlled environment, all without speaking. Then it happened. The man in the hoodie made his move, trying to grab a bag left unattended near the crowd. Security was distracted again, and the potential for disaster surged in Elena's chest. The single dad reacted instantly, blocking the man, using a combination of sign language and decisive action to alert the officers nearby. Within seconds, the would-be thief was restrained, his plan thwarted before it could harm anyone. Elena grabbed Lily and stepped back, heart pounding. "How did he see that?" she whispered to herself. The single dad glanced at her briefly, a faint nod, as if acknowledging her awe. He didn't need words. He didn't seek gratitude. He simply returned to scanning the terminal, knowing the threat might not be over. And he was right. Through the crowd, Elena noticed movement, a subtle handoff between two strangers. Something small, almost invisible, was being exchanged. The single dad's eyes locked onto them instantly, and he signaled again, guiding security toward the culprits without alarming the rest of the passengers. Elena held her daughter close, barely breathing. This wasn't just a snowstorm anymore. This was a trap that could have escalated into tragedy. The single dad was the only one aware of the full picture, and his actions were the difference between danger and safety. The terminal erupted in confusion as security intercepted the second group. People shouted, some panicked, but Elena's attention was fixed on the single dad. He had anticipated every move, neutralized every threat, and all without ever uttering a word. Lily leaned against her mother, whispering, "Mom, he's like a real-life superhero." Elena nodded, her own emotions a tangle of relief and astonishment. Yes, he is." The snowstorm outside continued its relentless assault, wind and flakes battering the glass walls, but inside, the danger had been fully exposed and contained. The single dad stepped toward Elena and Lily once more, his posture calm but vigilant. He gestured for them to follow him toward the terminal exit, signaling a safe path. Elena glanced around, realizing that the chaos of the storm had hidden more than snow. It had concealed the intentions of criminals who thought they could exploit the confusion. And the single dad had seen through it all. "Thank you," Elena said quietly when they reached the safety of a cordoned-off waiting area. "I don't even know your name." He shook his head, smiling faintly. "No need," he signed. "Just stay alert. People assume chaos hides everything, but it doesn't. You have to see it for yourself." Elena felt a surge of gratitude she couldn't fully express. She had always relied on control, planning, and power, but none of that could have saved her and her daughter without someone paying attention, reacting with courage, and thinking clearly under pressure. Lily tugged at Elena's sleeve. "Mom, can we tell everyone he's a hero?" Elena shook her head. "Some heroes don't need to be told. They just act." The single dad disappeared into the crowd again, blending seamlessly with passengers resuming their travel plans. He was ordinary, yet extraordinary, a reminder that heroism often goes unseen. As Elena and Lily finally boarded their rescheduled flight, Elena reflected on the day. The snowstorm had been terrifying, the terminal had been chaotic, and the danger had been very real. But thanks to one man's vigilance and skill, tragedy had been prevented. Elena looked down at Lily, brushing her daughter's hair from her face. "Do you understand what just happened?" she asked. Lily nodded slowly. "He saved us. All of us." "Yes," Elena whispered. "And we'll never forget it." The plane lifted off the icy tarmac, carrying mother and daughter away from the chaos. Snow swirled beneath them, obscuring the airport from view. But inside Elena, something had shifted. She had seen courage in its purest, quietest form, a selfless act that had saved lives without recognition, reward, or fanfare. And she knew this. The single dad had not just uncovered criminals that day. He had uncovered the truth about heroism, vigilance, and the extraordinary potential in ordinary people. Elena held Lily's hand tightly, eyes fixed on the horizon. One day, she realized, might change everything. But sometimes, one person's actions, silent, deliberate, and brave, could change far more than just a day. The snowstorm had passed, but its memory lingered like frost on glass. Elena Royce and her daughter Lily stepped out of the airport, the crisp air biting at their faces. The chaos inside, the danger, the criminals, the fear, was over. But the impact of the day was far from fading. Elena paused on the curb, looking at the empty taxi lanes dusted with snow. Her daughter clung to her hand, eyes wide and bright, a mixture of awe and lingering apprehension. "Mom, he really saved us," Lily whispered. "Yes, baby," Elena replied, taking a deep breath. "He really did." Elena thought back to the single dad, the ordinary man who had become their guardian angel. His calm determination, his keen eyes, his hands signing warnings and instructions, he had acted without hesitation, without recognition, and without expecting anything in return. He had seen danger that no one else noticed, and he had stopped it. She realized something profound. In her world of power, wealth, and influence, she had never truly understood heroism. Boardroom battles, stock prices, and media headlines had always defined success. But today, in the chaos of an airport trapped by a snowstorm, she had witnessed courage that transcended all of that. Her mind wandered to the criminals he had intercepted. Without his intervention, a child could have been in danger. Innocent lives could have been harmed. And yet, there he was, blending into the crowd again, unassuming, invisible, but undeniably extraordinary. Lily tugged on her sleeve. "Mom, can we say thank you to him?" Elena shook her head softly. "Some people don't do heroism for thanks. They just do what's right." She knelt down to look at her daughter. "Remember this, Lily. The bravest people don't always wear capes. They act when others can't see. And sometimes, the smallest gestures, like a sign, a look, or a quiet warning, can save lives." The little girl nodded, eyes reflecting the awe and gratitude Elena felt herself. "I want to be like him," Lily said softly. Elena hugged her tightly. "You can. You already are learning." For Elena, the day had changed more than just their immediate safety. It had altered her perspective on life. She had seen how courage could exist in the most ordinary forms, how vigilance and quick thinking could turn potential tragedy into safety. She had seen how one person's awareness could ripple outward, protecting not only strangers, but shaping the course of events entirely. As they waited for a car to take them home, Elena reflected on the lessons she had learned. Life was unpredictable, and danger often lurked where it was least expected. But heroes existed, people who acted quietly, decisively, selflessly. And the single dad had reminded her that power was not in titles or money, but in action, in awareness, and in caring enough to step forward when it mattered most. When the taxi arrived, Lily leaned against her mother, still quiet. "Do you think he's okay?" she asked. Elena smiled softly. "Yes. He's exactly where he needs to be. Watching, protecting, making sure people are safe, without needing recognition. That's what makes him special." As the car drove through the snowy streets, Elena allowed herself to relax for the first time since the morning. The adrenaline of fear had ebbed, replaced with a calm, reverent gratitude. She glanced down at Lily, whose eyes were closing in drowsy relief. "Mom," Lily murmured, "do you think he saved anyone else today?" Elena squeezed her hand. "I know he did. People like him, they see what others miss. And when they act, they change lives, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically, but always forever." For the rest of the day, Elena couldn't shake the image of him, the single dad moving through the terminal, hands signaling, eyes scanning, a quiet guardian in the storm. She realized that the world needed more people like him, courageous, selfless, alert to danger, willing to act without expectation of praise. That night, in the quiet of her home, she recounted the events to her assistant over a secure video call. Boardrooms, stock markets, and meetings could wait. She wanted to ensure the story was accurate, not for fame, not for headlines, but to honor the man who had acted when it counted. And though the world might never know his name, Elena and Lily would never forget him. He had given them safety, and in doing so, had reminded them of something far more valuable: the quiet, unseen acts that define true heroism. Lily climbed into bed that night, snuggling under the warm blankets. "Mom, can heroes really be ordinary people?" Elena smiled, brushing her daughter's hair back. "Yes, Lily. And some of the most extraordinary heroes are the ones you'll never see again." The snowstorm continued to rage outside, but inside, the warmth of safety and gratitude filled the room. Elena knew that today had changed her forever, and that the lessons of vigilance, courage, and selfless action would stay with her and her daughter for the rest of their lives. And somewhere in the city, the single dad had moved on, unseen, uncelebrated, but unforgettable. Because sometimes the bravest people act silently, letting their deeds speak louder than words ever could.